Good afternoon. It is my great honor to tell you about the world I desire and share with all of you. A world where we share our happiness. A world where we exist as us rather than I. So please, lend me your ears and your hearts, for now I'm about to share my dream with you. Why do we live? What is the reason of our existence? Answers may differ, but all leads to one simple answer. To be happy. Every move we make is the outcome of our pursuit of happiness. The problem is that people these days don't seem to care about others' happiness. All that matters is their own, and they don't care even if their decision infringes others' happiness. As a result, the world has become a fierce battleground, and it's obvious that the total amount of happiness this country has to offer has greatly diminished. It is no longer a secret that students these days regard their classmates as a rival than a mental friend. It is hard to find any respect for the elders and even for their teachers. All that matters is my own good, and this is a real problem. It is almost impossible to make a true friend at a job. Rates of fraud and violent crime have incessantly increased. Most of us only think about me, me, me. According to a recent report carried out by the OECD in 2011, Korea ranked 26th out of 34 member countries in Better Life Initiative and ranked 33rd in community life. Too much competition has erased the concept of us and has made me the only thing that matters, which made us lack the feeling of being attached to one another. Then how can we overcome this situation? The problem is caused by too much competition, which means that we think there just is not enough trophies for everyone. The answer lies in finding who we are. We, those born around the year of 1988, are called the G generation. We are remarked to be confident, positive, and courageous, thanks to the abundant support our country has offered during our growth. G generation, open your eyes, broaden your hearts. There are so many trophies to be won outside this country. Look at Park Tae-hwan. Look at Kim Yeon-ah. Did they limit themselves just in Korea? No. They set their goals high, to the world. We should also keep in mind what Jesus Christ has taught us if we are to be truly happy. To help those who are in need of my help. This implies we should care for others' happiness as well as my own. Mother Teresa, who spent most of her life caring for others, is a good example we can choose to live by. And even as I speak, there are many volunteers who are spending their time and effort for the good of others. We can be one of them. And when we do so, we'll be able to find much more happiness than we used to. The total amount of happiness this country has to offer will increase. We are not them. We are us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 16, In Soo-yoon from Sungkyunkwan University. Title is Brother, Cheer Up.
I have only one older brother, and from early childhood, we cried and laughed together. Sometimes we fought like cats and dogs, but we always relied on each other. Whenever I look back at my student days, I could see my brother was my reliable friend. We once met gangsters on our way back home late one night. I stood frozen because I was so afraid of being punched by them. However, my brother was so brave that he started throwing punches and hit them in the face. He was a real guy. As we grew up, we began to live away from each other, away from home. The lack of communication began to divide our relationship. Indeed, I was madly focused on myself, so I didn't know how he was living. Suddenly, trouble came up and began to devastate our family. The problem came from an online game addiction that seized my brother. He failed to get a grip on himself and started wandering in the shadows. He couldn't take his major classes. He couldn't take exams. He was lonely. And the computer games were his only friends. As my father realized these kind of things, he was shocked. My father went to his boarding house and told him to take the semester up. He persuaded my brother to study continuously, but he didn't follow my father's plea. Even though he didn't want to play games anymore, it seems like an unknown force was pulling his mind. For 3 years, my parents tried to heal his mind, but it didn't work at all. He was confined to a psychiatric hospital twice. Happiness left my parents' faces. Originally, I, too, was a hopeless person, living without a dream. I wondered a lot in my university also. I got terrible grades in my exams, and I was too timid to develop good relationships with others. But one day, I decided to apply for an overseas volunteer program in Argentina as a way to escape the reality of my life. There, I made friends with foreigners, though my language skill was poor. I felt the happiness that I never knew in Korea, and I learned to appreciate all things. I went there to give something. Instead, they gave me their love. I'll never forget the last moment of farewell. They were crying for me. I cried also. After I came back to Korea, I studied hard. While studying, I began to dream to become the world's best chemical plant engineer. I'm happy now. I hope my older brother also can live with tomorrow's hope, though he is standing on the edge of a cliff. I believe he will turn around. I don't have courage to directly tell my brother yet, but let me take this opportunity to say a word to him. Brother, please don't think it's too late. I'd like you to start again and never forget this. I will always be at your side, and our family still loves you. I love you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 17, Jian Yu from Daeju University. The title of her speech is The Most Horrible Turning Point of My Life.
You can do it. Anything is possible if you try hard. I have always heard that anything is possible with effort. I thought it was just a passing word. But as I grew older, I began to think that if I try hard enough, I will be able to do anything. Though I couldn't do everything, I assured myself that I can do anything only if I try hard. Why? Because that's what everyone told me. Early this year, I received a request to help out with a camp held in Peru. There were many things to do, as I had to translate in Spanish, check the performances, and make subtitles. But I worked diligently with what I had learned. Of course, as a result, many people complimented and acknowledged me. So I thought, nothing is impossible with effort, and people who try their best can never be competed. The camp finished in success, and on my flight back to Korea, I wanted to compliment myself for the job well done. My flight was from Peru to Korea via Canada. Unfortunately, I had to stop by Japan by one air crew's mistake. Anyway, I got on the plane. After sleeping for several hours, I woke up not in Narita Airport but in a small station in the woods. All the passengers were confused, and there was an announcement that due to an earthquake, Narita Airport had been closed. Because the plane had nowhere to go, we were stuck inside for 10 hours, trembling in fear. After some time, we landed in Sapporo Airport, which was a safer place. At the airport, we spent the night in fear with our eyes open and blankets spread out on the floor. Among the travelers was the 2010 Miss World Adriana, a large businessman named Mr. Wilson, and several others who were smart and wealthy from various social backgrounds. What could have they done with their money, intelligence, beauty, and health? No one was able to avoid the earthquake and tsunami with what they had. Could ever, as many others say, be of any help in that situation? Should he have tried hard? What would have changed? At that moment, something struck me. No matter how hard I try, if I'm let alone in distress, that's beyond my power. I become incapable of doing anything. Many people think they are superiors to others because they can do certain things well. I also look down on people when I perform better than them or was put in a higher position. I realized that I was completely helpless while lying down at the airport hoping to go back home. 3 days I spent in Japan allowed me to learn humility more than effort. The invisible station in the forest seems like a great calamity in my life, but the tragic memory guides me to live humility rather than pride that tells me I am able. Even today, I'm happy because the horrible experience in Japan continues to teach me humility in my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 18, Ari Song from Daegu Science College. Title is Friendly Competitors.
Competition. Whether we want to or not, we have to compete to succeed. But do you think competition is the only way to succeed? Let's look at one story. Steven Spielberg is an American film director. He directed many famous films such as Jaws, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Jurassic Park, the Indiana Jones series, and more. George Lucas is an American film producer. He also directed many famous films, including his most famous, the Star Wars series. When Jaws was released, Spielberg broke box office records. Jaws became the highest-grossing film made at that time. A few years later, Lucas released Star Wars, and it broke all the records set by Jaws. At that time, Spielberg posted a fun advertisement message in a movie magazine. He congratulated Lucas and Star Wars, then moved ahead of Jaws in domestic film rentals. A few years later, Spielberg released E.T. the Extraterrestrial and set new records again. So, Lucas posted an advertisement message like Spielberg did. He also congratulated Spielberg about taking first place again by moving ahead of Star Wars. Those short messages show the friendship of two of the great directors in the world. Usually, people who have the same job or position in our society have to compete to survive. However, I saw this short commercial about the two directors on TV and found a different point. Both of them are successful directors in Hollywood. They're also competitors. But as you can see, they're not just competitors, they're also good friends. Usually people try to outdo others to succeed, but they were different. When one had a good result, the other congratulated him with pleasure. In reality, it is the most difficult thing to congratulate your competitor sincerely. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas could sincerely do that since they are close friends. Also, each other's success in movies became a motivating force for the other. I also have a friend who always thinks of me and has inspired me. I met her in high school and we lived together for about 6 years until college. We called each other friend, but in our heart, we were just competitors. Most of the time we had to compete according to the circumstances. As time passed, we grew cold to each other and there was no friend anymore. I felt very sad and lonely, so I wrote a long letter to her. I told her everything that was in my heart. A few days later, she also wrote me a letter. I could see her heart that I couldn't before. Since then, we became very close friends and have done many things, even laughing and crying together. I felt everything was better this way rather than only competing. Likewise, having a good friend is more important than having only a competitor. When you simply have a competitor, your purpose could just be to beat each other to succeed, but when you have a friend, your purpose can be different. When your friend is down, you can help her cheer up. When good things happen, you can happily congratulate her. Plus, your friend would do the same for you. Besides, being your competitor, your friend can also be your motivation. She's not just any competitor, but a good competitor like Spielberg and Lucas. I believe if you'll have a friend who supports you, that means you also have a good competitor to drive you for success in life. Someday, I hope all of you can say to your friend, thank you for being a good friend and competitor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 19, Sujin Ho from Ewha Women's University. Title is Defying Gravity.
If there's one word that can describe what my life has been about, it would be approval. Since this is too ambiguous, I'll make it 4 words to clarify: trying to win approval. Ever since childhood, I moved from country to country. I was born in Korea, but lived in Japan and the United States. I had approximately 4 years to adjust in each country. Recently, I went to Wellesley College in Boston and stayed there for 5 months. Some say I was lucky to experience such diverse culture. I just say I understood how Alice in Wonderland felt. My first memory of elementary school in Korea is one being ridiculed. My peers at school thought it was strange that I couldn't speak Korean, so when they found out that I just came back from Japan, they called me Japanese. Coming from Koreans, this was a big insult. This incident left me an indelible scar and taught me a lesson. It is bad coming from a different country, or for that matter, being different in any way. Difficulties mounted in the United States. I was older and my ego was bigger. So when a mischievous boy pointed out that I made a grammatical error during a presentation, I cried out of embarrassment. Later that day, my teacher tried to console me by saying, "You're different, but special as well." At that time, those words made me angrier. To me, being special meant being isolated, and I was isolated. As the new girl, isolation was something I could not escape. Still, I sought to fit in. I figured that earning respect was the easiest way to do so, so I thought to be a diplomat. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I did it to earn respect, to fit in. Long story short, I didn't follow through the plan. I didn't even take the exam. When President Lee announced that he'd replace the exam with a government academy, I gave up. The exam is one of the most difficult national exams out there, and my petty incentive wasn't a motive strong enough to give it a try. After giving up, I realized that I was empty. Who am I? What do I want to get out of life? I had no answer to any of those questions. I was so wrapped up in trying to get accepted that I had lost myself. So I applied for an exchange student at Wellesley College to take some time off, to figure out the answers. At Wellesley, I did things for the sake of my pleasance. I skipped classes to read books. I walked around the campus during exam period. I also traveled a lot. I went to Florida, San Francisco, and New York, where I watched Wicked. Wicked is a musical where the Wizard of Oz is told from the witch perspective. The witch was born green. Because of her skin, everybody isolates her. She tries to fit in and eventually does with help of a friend. Then she finds out that the community has backstabbed her belief in being good. It created an illusory enemy to take control of its citizen. Later, she becomes the enemy to save the innocent who are falsely blamed. There's this one scene where she steps up to announce her defiance of society. She sings the song, Defying Gravity. The lyric goes something like this. Too long I've been afraid of. Losing love, I guess I've lost. If that's love, it comes at much too high a cost. I'm defying gravity, and you won't bring me down. Though she shocked me immensely. I had been Greenwich my whole life, and I hated it trying to hide my greenness. But there she was, willing to accept, no, embrace being green for what she believed in. I guess she thought being different meant being special. This May, I came back to Korea. I no longer look for jobs that will earn me respect. Instead, I'm looking for something that I actually like. It's okay not to get approval from others. I can't guarantee that you'll succeed after becoming green and special, but I can guarantee that you'll become free and happy. I'm the proof of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 20, Eunhae Hong from Deokseong Women's University. Title is To Reach the Final Destination.
change within reality, at times, is more dramatic than a dream or a novel. When you go to the bookstore these days, one of the largest sections is the self-help section. There are books on topics ranging from Dale Carnegie's methods of conquering worry to effective speaking skills and enjoying your life and your job. Many people dream of self-improvement in various fields. I once read a self-help book on service and kindness by Young-sil Park titled Manager Kim, Could You Be a Little Kinder? The conclusion of the book was simple. I flipped to the last page and felt satisfied. But the next day, I became disappointed in myself. Through this book, I learned to express my concern and care, but I only saw myself stopping at the satisfaction of having become a little kinder. There was no further improvement or further effort. University of Illinois in the United States conducted an interesting experiment. They divided the school basketball team into 3 groups of A, B, and C. For a month, Group A practiced shooting, but Group B didn't. Group C did not practice. Group C, instead of going to the gym, stayed in their rooms and imagined themselves practicing. So Group C imagined shooting for 30 minutes each day. This was mind training where they imagined themselves shooting and improving each day. 1 month later, they tested the shooting scores of the 3 groups. But the outcome was quite unexpected. While Group A, that practiced every day at the gym, had the improvement rate of 25%. Group B, with no training, had no improvement. But Group C, that had mind training only, showed the same amount of Group A, same amount of improvement as Group A. Self-monitoring part of Group C experiment was about reflecting on an individual's shooting posture, speed, strength, direction, and aim. The outcome of self-reflection was same as Group A that practiced every day. Self-reflection is the same as finding yourself on a map. If I stop at the satisfaction of just reading a self-help book and fail to improve myself, wouldn't I have the same outcome as Group B? On the contrary, I wouldn't have become more caring, but would have lived on being more ignorant of people around me, and I would have hurt people even without knowing. Once I was able to see myself and acknowledge my image, what then came to me was change. Many examples, teachings, theories could offer satisfaction, but I was not able to bring self-improvement. Knowing where the final destination does not mean I have reached the final destination. I could only reach the final destination once I know my exact location. Imagine how happy you would be if a book could change your life. But I realized what is important is not the method of self-improvement. Self-reflection lets you know where you are standing. Finally, I am moving forward toward my final destination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 21, Yu Young-an from Hanbat National University. Title is Happiness Which Lies Beneath My Foot.
Let's pretend there is a cancer patient who is waiting to die next to me. Then would I ask, what do you want to do if you had one more day to live? What would the person's answer be? Would you want to be a millionaire like Warren Buffett? Or would you want to wear a stunning suit designed by a famous designer? How about becoming a CEO at a big company? He gives an unexpected answer. He says, I want to eat bean paste stew that my wife makes in the morning. I also want to go on a picnic with my children. This can be an absurd answer when you hear it, but this is his last wish. Have you ever felt joy and happiness in small things? Maybe you have experienced this once in your life. Well, you are on the way to Seoul. in the middle of the highway, you have an upset stomach. You suffer for an hour. As the bus stops at the rest area, you get off right away and look for a restroom sign. Usually this is a place where you don't like much because it smells, but just in the very moment, this is the place where you really want to go. As I come out from the restroom, I can feel a strange peace in my heart. Last year, when I went to Rwanda as an overseas volunteer, I met a friend named Jula. When I went over to Jula's house, her mother had prepared a meal. 9 members of our family gathered at the table to eat. On the table, there were peas with mashed potatoes and 1 baked corn. Jula's uncle divided the corn into 9 pieces. He gave me the biggest piece. It was the most shocking scene that I have ever seen in my life. No one complained while holding that little piece of corn in their hands. I was never happy in Korea, although I had abundant food. But there, I was very happy eating the piece of corn before I knew it. I left Ola too, while having a conversation with her family. That night, we had to share a cup of water to brush our teeth. Also, 3 people had to sleep in a single bed. Yet, I was extremely happy as I spent the night dancing and singing with Jula's family. It was an amazing experience. Nowadays, modern people like only the best. It has to be the best of best, highest and greatest. Yet, they are always thirsty. They try to fill their hearts with something, but they cannot. A person who can laugh all they want, even though they do not have anything, is a person who really knows to be happy in small things. People, don't look up anymore. Please look down. Then you can find things you can be happy about. Now, think about the conditions that will make you happy. Happiness lies right beneath your foot. Now, pick them up. How many can you find? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 22, Yuri Nam from Korea University. Title is 99% Inspiration.
Thomas Edison once said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." Perhaps, but not when it comes to solving problems. Finding a solution to a problem requires more than a spark of inspiration. Speaking of inspiration, ladies and gentlemen, who was your inspiration? Who affected you and changed your life? Today, I would like to tell you about my inspiration, the person who shone a new light on my world. Her name is Iris Shunryu Chang. Iris Chang is the Chinese-American author of The Rape of Nanking. When I was in 11th grade, I watched a TV documentary that gave an account of the massacre of Nanking, in which Japanese soldiers killed 350,000 people. 350,000 people! That's more than the total civilian death toll for some European countries during the entire Second World War. Despite the staggering toll of mass murder, the Nanking massacre has largely been ignored by Western media. That is, until Iris Chang came along. The Rape of Nanking served as a wake-up call to the Western world about this massacre. Chang's book shocked many people, not only Americans, but the whole Western world as she unveiled this crime against humanity. Over the years, I've become fascinated with the way Chang reached her audience. She didn't protest, unlike most Chinese who had protested to no avail. Rather, she used literature as a medium to convey her message to an audience that would have otherwise remained indifferent. This was a novel and inspired approach to this dilemma. Chang's work was an artistic combination of words that reached into the hearts and minds of the audience. Following her example, instead of using orthodox methods, I keep in mind the necessity of inspiration and the elements of novelty in giving solutions. Not all solutions have to be complex. I have a simple but inspiring one to share with you. When I was in high school, I found that most students were dissatisfied with the conversation classes. The class materials were old and classes were focused on memorization instead of discussion. My classmates grumbled and whined and even complained to the teachers, but nothing changed. Then I had a moment of inspiration. Leveraging my position as a member of the English newspaper club, I conducted a survey and published an article detailing these problems. As a result of my efforts, class reform became a reality. Like Chang did, I successfully developed and used a new approach to create an effective solution. Iris Chang inspired me to look for new solutions and new channels of communication. I believe in solving problems, whether small or big. The key is not to simply try hard, but that you must also be novel. This principle can also be applied to the most pressing issues of today. One can be the ongoing dispute with Japan regarding the compensation issue of what the UN terms as military sex slaves during the colonial era. This serious violation of human rights can best be addressed by the use of unconventional methods, principally by raising awareness through a novel, inspired approach. After all, 99% perspiration, as Edison said, may make one a genius, but 99% inspiration can create lasting change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 23, Young-Seok Kim from Busan National University. Title is Who is a Leader?
One, two. SCV, good girl, sir. Yes, sir. Roger that. Just finished. These are the words spoken by the minions called SCV in a game called StarCraft. In a game, I can order the SCVs to do something, and they just do all that I command them to do. As I play the game, I consider myself as a good leader, and I wanted to become a good leader in real life as well. Last semester, I was elected as the president of a volunteer group that was made up of 100 good quality college students. As the president, I was requested to do a lot of work with the members. Hey, could you do this for me? Hey, would you please do that? At first, they follow me well, just like the minions of the game I just mentioned. However, as time passed, people began to avoid me and ignore my phone calls. What was the problem? At first, I thought they were looking down on me because my working skills were lacking. From then on, I worked harder to gain recognition as a good leader. But their attitude towards me didn't seem to change. Then one day, I saw a documentary about a pitiful Brazilian man. He grew up under a poor family and he didn't finish his elementary education. Therefore, he was unable to read. However, he didn't lose hope. He overcame all the difficulties and finally became a great leader. He is Lula da Silva, former president of Brazil. When he became the president, his country was under a huge debt, and a quarter of the Brazilian population was living in poverty. Do you know what he did first as he became the president? He first met the poor people, giving them subsidies to send their children to school and to have regular checkups at the hospital. He treated people with a sincere heart. Though there was much negative criticism about his politics, he kept trying to connect his heart with his people. Later, 20 million people in poverty became the middle class. And Brazil paid back all the debt and finally became the world's 8th largest economy at the end of his term. His life made me look back at mine. I only focused on getting my work done or improving my working skills. Not even once did I care about how the people felt or what problems they might have. I treated them like minions. Later, I asked the people how they felt very often and tried to encourage them with words of hope. As I met them heart to heart, we became really close to one another. And I was so astonished to see the people who eagerly follow me with a smile on their faces. I used to think that many qualifications are required to be a great leader. Good education, language ability, or good working skills. However, the Brazilian man had none of this. What he did have was a heart for the people. All he wanted to do was try to connect it with his people. And the huge connection of heart of the nation brought an unbelievable change into his country, and Lula finally became the respectful leader. He taught me a great lesson that as long as we have connected heart with the people around us, we can all become a true leader that brings a miracle. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 24, Suji Lee from Sangji University. Title is The Calling That Changed My Heart.
Outside, there is a beautiful weather. But what am I doing here? Over there, I'm studying to be a teacher from early in the morning to late at night. Rain or shine, I just study. Yeah, this is my daily routine. Since I've been studying for several months, I'm physically, mentally exhausted. I've studied mindlessly without any reason or goal for some time. So I decided that I would give up this tough pass. Meanwhile, I received a phone call from my Burmese friend who is working in Singapore. When I was in Singapore in 2008, we met and became very close. During our conversation, she told me some good news. It was the news that she had passed her CPA exam in Singapore. I was amazed to hear this. It's a miracle because she was in love circumstances 3 years ago. She was a maid. A maid's life in Singapore is the same as a slave's. Normally for 2 years, they don't have a day off and receive peanuts for pay. They work all day long. Furthermore, her English is poor. That's why I really wondered how she could pass this difficult exam. While our conversation was going on, all of my curiosity was finally satisfied. She said, "As you know, every day of mine was absolutely miserable and hopeless, so nobody expected I passed it. Even I didn't believe that I could make it. It was really hard when I started studying at the beginning. Whenever I studied when everyone else was sleeping, I believed that I could be a good accountant after 2 or 3 years, though I'm in difficulty right now. I also dreamed that my family would live comfortably in Myanmar and my younger brothers and sisters could go to school. With these dreams and hopes, 3 years passed me quite quickly. While listening, I was shamed by her words. I've been provided scholarship and convenient place by my school. But I struggled, though everything was prepared. I gave up too easily, not understanding how fortunate I was. I always cared about good conditions. However, through her, I realized it's not important whether or not I have good conditions, but it is important what kind of mindset I have under a given condition. She has a clear dream in her study. That's why the circumstances didn't matter. Then, suddenly, I remembered I had a clear goal before beginning my study. When I was in Singapore, I met a lot of students as I taught Korean to them. Though I was in position to teach, I learned many things from them through sharing of our heart. So we all had such a wonderful time. After this time, I got on the plane to go back to Korea and thought throughout the flight, the place that is the most full of students is a school. If I work there, I'll be able to share my heart with them and learn lots of things from them all my life. Then I decided on the flight, let's be a teacher. I moved my dream was a distant memory to the center of my heart again and was able to restart studying with a renewed heart when I must have given up. Just 2 weeks later, about this time, I would take the exam. If I passed, I would stand in front of students. At the time, I should tell them this story. Also, I will tell them this again whenever they feel down and seem willing to give up their studying, so they can see that they can overcome all of their circumstances and keep moving towards their dreams in their heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 25, Taejin Song from Jeonbuk National University. Title is The Best Way to Get Rid of Poverty.
Whoever goes to Africa will think of poverty. It'll make you sad to see the cruel reality that is unfitting with the beautiful nature. Is there no way to get rid of poverty? I believe that it is possible. As the saying goes, rather than giving a child a fish, teaching him or her how to fish may be the answer. I would like to tell you the story of one youth who overcame poverty through education. I spent 1 year volunteering as a teacher in Burundi. The people lived in a small shack made of mud, bamboo, and Bishop Steel were my students. Peniel was one of them. One day he told me his story. My family was wealthy since my parents were professors. However, when I was 8 years old, there was a war. A mob of rioters stole all of our possessions and murdered my parents right before my eyes. That day, I became an orphan. When I saw Peniel at that time, he was exactly poor and pitiful orphan. However, he had a strong desire to learn. Every day he came to the free classes that the Burundi Education Center provided. At first, he only knew how to speak French, and he did not know how to read English at all. Nevertheless, he came to class consistently. He was able to improve at a rapid pace. Later, he became more skilled in English than I, who was his teacher. After 3 years, Peniel was amazingly translating the speech of the Burundi youth minister at an international event. He became an interpreter who could translate between French, English, and Burundian. How can my students translate for the minister? Unbelievable. I contact Peniel even nowadays. He says to me, I believe that I am truly blessed. I used to be an orphan who thought that starving was unchangeable. However, I was able to learn English thanks to the free classes, and now I'm an interpreter for the minister. Now I also work as a teacher at a free classes. I am really happy that I can work as a teacher, giving hope to students like me who had no opportunity to receive education. The education that we provided changed Peniel's life. I was able to directly observe the change in his life. I realized that the best way to get rid of poverty is to providing opportunity for education. More than bread or money, the African people desperately need education. By providing studies in agriculture, industry, economy, in any other field, the second, third, many more Peniel will arise in the future. The Africa that they shape will not be a dark and poor continent. When that day comes, I am sure that poverty will no longer rule over Africa. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 26, Yool Chun from Jeonnan National University. Title is Two Idiots Who Inspired Me.
They were common, everyday fellows, no one that you would pay particular attention to. It was during the turn of the century, 1900, that these idiots believed they had something to share with the world. They were Will and Wilbur, two brothers who owned a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio. Let us not forget that they had no high school diplomas and no formal engineering education. However, they took it upon themselves to attempt to build a flying machine. Their ideas were revolutionary and not born of accident either, but through painstaking trial and error, testing and retesting. When there was a problem to be solved, they argued about it. And then they switched sides and argued just as adamantly in the other direction. People walking by the bicycle shop who heard this thought to themselves, "Shh, these guys are a couple of idiots." Little by little, they achieved what no other idiots have achieved before. Finally, in 1903, after 7 years of trying, two brothers, two bicycle shop owners, two guys with no high school diploma, made their first sustained flight. And of course, the rest is aviation history. For the Wright brothers, the conversations they had were the source of the ideas and became the catalyst that changed their destiny. The people who knew them considered them to be idiots. However, it is true that they were not idiots. I was really amazed because they continued to challenge their goal with the belief that they could accomplish what no person had done before. Through their conversations, they were able to overcome what seemed impossible. Also, I could recognize that our perceptions depend upon who we have our conversation with. For example, if we shared our conversation with the people who passed by the back shop, we too would think that the Wright brothers were a couple of idiots. However, if we had a conversation directly with the Wright brothers and think on a more superior level, we could be extraordinary people. While I reflect upon these two brothers, I can gain courage and hope. An education, career, status are some of the factors that make an ordinary person. To become an extraordinary person, I should converse with extraordinary people. Just like the Wright brothers, I want to broaden my mind and take advantage of every opportunity to share conversation with such extraordinary people. I too will accomplish something truly extraordinary, just like the Wright brothers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have contestant number 27, Eunyoung Lee from Chungju National University. Title is My Small Notebook.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'd like to tell you my secret that nobody knows. To be honest with you, I'm deaf in one ear. More precisely, I'm completely deaf in my right ear. At first, I just thought that my hearing ability was slightly poor. For example, despite my friends calling me several times, I couldn't hear them very well. They said, "Guess how many times I called you?" Sometimes they even said, "What's the problem with your ears?" Because this happens so many times, I wondered if there's something wrong with my ears. So I went to a small hospital in my village. The doctor said, "You have too much earwax, so I prescribed some medicine that can remove the excess earwax." But after taking all my medicine, I knew my condition didn't get better. Now I can tell you, it was a ridiculous treatment. But at that time, I really hoped that my doctor's prescription would work. I wanted to believe that I didn't have any problem. I was afraid to get the proper diagnosis. However, I went to a bigger hospital and then I found out my hearing condition couldn't recover forever. I write to my mother about my hearing problem because I didn't want to see her crying. She thinks I can hear perfectly now, but that's not the case. Even though I knew I couldn't hear very well, if there was someone who didn't know about my hearing condition and she said, "Can't you hear me?" It really hurt me like a small nail pierced my heart. Every time that happened, I made every effort to pretend to be calm outwardly, but deep in my heart, I felt pain. In that case, I always tried to switch the conversation to another topic quickly. In other words, I was very sensitive to any subject about my ears in those days. For all that, why did I decide to go public with my problem? Well, I'm not totally sure, but I think I began to change my mind when I received this small notebook. Does this look small and shabby? This is a present that somebody gave me when I was having a hard time. She told me that this was a thank you notebook. Since then, I have begun to write down all the things that I'm thankful for every day. To be frank with you, I was a little disappointed after receiving this note as a gift. At the moment, I never realized this present would become the most valuable thing in my life. For the first time, I thought, do I really have a lot of things to be thankful for each day? But soon I realized that I was wrong. Every night, when I opened the notebook and tried to think about my daily gratitude, I realized there were so many things to write. For example, I can watch TV with my family. I can ride the bike. I can smile. Although my right ear is deaf, I can still hear beautiful sounds with my left ear. Don't be thankful for just big things in life. Be thankful for all the little things too. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Now, last but not least, we have contestant number 28, Jian from Sangmyeong University. Title is The True Way to Change the World.
From when I was a little girl, my parents have always told me to dream of being someone who can change the world. I was rather confused about this because all the people I knew who were that powerful were all male, like Superman and Spider-Man. But as you can see, I'm not. After some time, this idea became a little more realistic when I decided to become a teacher. I truly believed that by changing the children who will later lead society, I could change the world itself. Last summer, I had the privilege of being a teacher in an English camp. Full of excitement and hope, it seemed to me for a while that turning my old dream into a reality was rather rich. But the bubble burst quite quickly as soon as I came in contact with my first lot of students. One assignment during that camp was to do an English presentation speech. I told my students to show confidence and to make their speeches perfecto. On the first day of presentations, one of my good students, Alex Kim, was absent for the first time. I had no idea why till his mother phoned that night to explain that he was too scared to do the speech. I scolded him for being a coward and said he must do it next time. No excuses. On the second day of presentations, he managed to show up. Completely insensitive to the fear on his face, I forced him out for his speech. Head down, facing the floor, and very reluctantly, he began to mumble. Eager to change his passive personality, I told him, "Speak up." He didn't show any change, so I yelled at him, "I told you, you must be confident." But the yelling didn't seem to work at all. He continued to mumble, and even more so, as the classmates began to laugh at him. Then suddenly, I noticed a little twitch on his face. Alex's body began to shiver, and within seconds, he dropped to the floor. The whole camp turned upside down, and I thought, oh no, what have I done? Fortunately, he recovered in the nurse's office, and I had a chance to talk to him. When I asked him what happened, he told me about a time when he was painfully scolded in front of his friends, and that he still has a trauma from it. Bursting into tears, he said, "I'm sorry, I'm scared." After this incident, I began to reflect on my dreams. I learned that it wasn't right or even possible to just change people. I was judgmental, with no respect for my students' needs, and a narrow-minded stubbornness had settled in. It wasn't the students' manners or inner shapes that I needed to change. What I really needed to change was the way I treated and cared for my students. I realized that day that a change in myself will eventually connect a change in the world around me. Tolstoy once said, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. To be free from the vanity of trying to change others, and to find ways to renew and develop myself to be the right person doing the right thing is my improved dream and my lifelong assignment. Now, I stand here with excitement and anticipation for a life in which I can fulfill this dream of mine. Thank you.